Hello, and thank you for joining me this afternoon to have a look at this beautiful brand new for 2020 CollectA Microraptor Gui. So I know I've been absent for a little while, and in the interim there have been other far superior reviews of this figure done to anything I can produce. I'm looking at Dinosaur reviews. Seriously check out his channel if you haven't already. So I want to say a great big thank you to YouTube user Maria Elisa for encouraging me to still go ahead and do this review. Thank you very much, and I hope I can show you what you need to see for this figure. I've also got a soundtrack going on today. This is the OST from Panzer Dragoon. I just thought it might make a nice change. We'll see how that goes. Let me know in the comments. So first off, this is a 1:6 figure scale. 1:6 scale figure even. And as you can see, it's very, very tiny, the head. Microraptor was a very small dinosaur, and you can see the head is smaller than the end of my finger here. But check out the detail on that head. What a beautiful sculpt this is. And they've gone for a more sort of skin type texture. Look how subtle that skin is on the face compared to the more reptilian, scaly type texture that a lot of figures go for. It really looks very, very nice. And what they've chosen to do with the eye is paint it in a gloss black, and they've put this lovely grey circle, perfectly circular, around it to really make it pop against the sort of grey beige type skin tone that they've gone for. You can really see the texturing and the detail that's gone into this figure at this scale. Everything down to the tiny little nostril at the tip of the nose here. You can see the teeth are individually demarcated, however they're not individually painted. That might be a bit of a tall ask on such, it's a very budget friendly figure this. I got mine from Everything Dinosaur, it was under £8. Definitely worth picking it up for a figure of this quality. There's a little bit of overspill from the teeth onto the lower jaw, but it looks a lot worse on camera than it does in real life, and it's something I can easily overlook. See, there's a little bit of detail in the corner of the jaw here on the muscles. So sculpturally, CollectA have improved in leaps and bounds over the past few years. And if you look straight down the face of this figure, you can see how incredibly even it is. Those eyes really bulge and pop in their head and looks really realistic. You can see there's a little bit of muscular detail on the tongue there as well. The mouth's maybe a little bit small to get to. Also, the eyes are perfectly positioned on the head. Occasionally with dinosaur toys you'll find one eye down here and one eye back here somewhere, and it looks a bit goofy, but no, not with CollectA. Absolutely perfect. There's a nice grey wash on the top of the head there as well. Now it's known that Microraptor, the base colour of the body was jet black, and it's also known that it had this wonderful iridescence on the flight feathers. And to replicate that, CollectA have given this figure nicely blended tones in a sort of oil wash. So it's not true iridescence, you don't get any adjustment in the chroma as you rotate it in the light. I mean, this purpley tone stays purple and this greeny gold tone stays greeny gold. However, the way it reflects the light is very, very pleasing. It's slightly metallic, slightly reflective. Really, really works very, very well. As is correct for Microraptor, it hasn't got the sort of contour feathers like you see on modern birds, where all the feathers are veins, and Microraptor was more like a ratite, like an ostrich or a rhea, for example, whereas these feathers on the body were more sort of decayed looking and fluffy. So they produced that texturing quite nicely there. There's no iridescence on the body. It's more of a matte shade. It doesn't really show up too well on camera. It looks all gloss on camera, but it's actually like a matte shade, and then there's like a gloss wash over the top to really make that pop out. The feather overall profile of the feathers is still perhaps a little bit on the tarred and feathered looking side. Maybe there should be a little more profile bulk on the underside. Yeah, there's plenty on the neck there, but it's something that's quite tricky for companies to do. The only company I've seen come close to achieving the look akin to true birds is actually Safari Limited. And you can see here with the Velociraptor, whilst this is by no means a perfect figure, the profile of the feathers makes the body appear far bulkier than it was, which is closer to reality with modern birds and would certainly be the same for dinosaurs. So the proportions of this figure are very, very good. The length of the tail, the length of the legs. Microraptor had incredibly long legs. The length of the neck and the size and shape of the head. They've really done their homework. So as you can see, it's got these unusual sort of leg wings as well, which Microraptor was famed for. It's a very unusual feature that hadn't been seen in a dinosaur before. And the detailing, the scales on the feet, so fine. Beautifully done. It is a bit of a shame that the claws are blunted off, because I think it's a safety feature, but they didn't really need to blunt them to this extent. It's quite a soft figure. seen this happen with other companies as well. And you can see how well done they are there. The legs are slightly different to each other. It's sort of standing as if it's facing off to another Microraptor. Sadly, I don't have another Microraptor to accompany this one yet. I'm quite interested in the PNSO figure. Let's have a look at this beautiful iridescent tail fan. Beautiful colours, beautifully blended. Really, really nicely done from every angle, this figure. Definitely a figure worth picking up if you're a fan of feathered dinosaurs, and even if you're not, because this is an excellent take on this creature. The pose is your typical sort of rising phoenix type pose, which dinosaur toy companies seem to apply to a lot of their feathered dinosaurs, so they really like to show off these wings. And as you can see, the left and the right wing are actually completely identical. It's just they're reversed, so that would definitely save on sculpting and processing time, I think, because they are very, very elaborate, very, very finely sculpted. You can see the veins down the feathers here and all that detail. Absolutely beautifully done. Now, I don't have any other Microraptor figures to keep this one company. However, I do have a bunch of Archaeopteryx figures which are in a very similar pose. As we can see here, we have the favourite Archaeopteryx, and he's in a very similar pose. The wings out and the tail flapping behind him. I do quite like this one sort of Roadrunner type dynamic though, when the little stand he comes on. I've also got the Papo Archaeopteryx. Now this figure, apologies for the focus issues here, this figure is sadly retired, and like most Papo dinosaurs, it is incredibly convincing as a fantastical animal. You know, you could imagine it being a real life living animal, just not perhaps an Archaeopteryx. Papo, fantastic sculptors, and the detail and the paint quality on their figures is unsurpassed, but sadly their accuracy as a dinosaur is another question altogether. But as you can see, it's a beautifully detailed figure, and if you can pick it up, it's definitely worthwhile picking it up because it's becoming quite rare. And finally, perhaps the best company for this little Microraptor at this stage, in my collection at least, is this absolutely stunning take on Archaeopteryx by Safari Limited. This is perhaps one of Doug Watson's finest sculpts, and again you can see they've got iridescence in the feathers here. Again, the contouring is perhaps a little bit close to the body, but overall these two match up very, very nicely together. And all of these figures I've got from Everything Dinosaur in the past. They're my go-to company because they have exceptional service and always have from the moment I started collecting again several years ago. Now, they also have an excellent YouTube site. They do Turntable Tuesday. Check that out if you haven't already, where they choose a figure and they'll do a little preview of it. They also have a presence on Twitter and also on Facebook, Instagram and Pinterest, very much worth checking out. And their blog is absolutely excellent. They're really, really good at taking information and making it understandable if you perhaps understand the scientific terminology in the papers that are released. So they greatly appreciate help at this time. So if anybody wants to order from them, please go ahead and do so. They're still operating at full capacity. And I know for a fact I've got a lovely birthday present off my other half, which has come from Everything Dinosaur, and I will be opening tomorrow. So watch out for that. Stay safe, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed having a closer look at this figure, and I'll see you in the next one.